There is a somewhat new term in media called the female gaze. According to Wikipedia, the female gaze is the reversal of gender roles and is from the perspective of a female filmmaker, such as a screenwriter, director, or producer, in which they bring to film what would be a different view than from the male view of the subject. According to this theory, the female gaze is supposed to be more transparent and show men in the light we show women, while at the same time giving women the spotlight and making them more developed in their role rather than for a man's gain. Lacey Green, host of the YouTube show Brawless, discusses in one of her segments how the movie Magic Mike falls into this role of the female gaze. By showing the men in the opposite role as a stripper, and for the female pleasure, it is therefore the female gaze. And since we are seeing males in a sexualized context, she states that while sex appeal is the goal of the movie, the males are still given power. Therefore, Magic Mike again falls under the female gaze. She alludes that because they are given interests and dreams, objectifying them is somehow okay. I believe that the movie falls under the male gaze, as the men are still sexualized in context. Just because they are well-rounded characters doesn't make them any less objectified. Also, the women in the movie are still used as sexual objects. Now I understand the movie is about male strippers, but it was written and directed by men, and the way the women and men are viewed is still from the male gaze perspective. If we look to action or superhero movies or TV shows, we see that by throwing shirtless men in here and there for the female audience as some type of consolation, movies can claim that they are a part of the female gaze. However, the problem of objectification is still there, thus making it the male gaze. While this new theory is in response to Laura Mulvey's theory, the male gaze, my argument is that while the intention of the female gaze is to reclaim womanhood and show women and men in the opposite roles and show women as strong leads who are developed, we're still seeing all that media through the male gaze. Even advertisements where the male is in the vulnerable role that women are usually in would fall into Lacey Green and Wikipedia's definition of the female gaze. My contention is that they still fall under the male gaze because they are still being objectified. And the women who are seen in the power role of some of the advertisements are still positioned as if we are a male viewer. Even movies and television shows that are written, directed, and produced by women or have women as strong female leads that should fall into the female gaze category, unfortunately still fall under the male gaze. Take, for example, Wonder Woman, directed by a woman with a strong female lead. Yet, the way she is styled and viewed by the audience is still from the male perspective. We see her as if we want her, and when she interacts with others on screen, they view her the same way. This isn't limited to just Wonder Woman, however. The television show The Handmaid's Tale falls to the male gaze as well. Although the book was written originally by a woman, a man has written, produced, and directed the show. Scenes like the ceremony, where the husband has intercourse with the maid while she is held by the wife, may seem like a good thing to bring as the woman's perspective, since the husband is shown in a disconnecting way from the view of the handmaid. However, in the very next scene shown here, we see her from his point of view. We are made uncomfortable because we assume the husband is looking at her while he is inside of her. We can also look to other shows and movies like The L Word, Clueless, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, or John Tucker Must Die, which are all made for women by women, so you would think they fall under the female gaze. However, the same problem arises with these that The Handmaid's Tale had. They are still very much from the male perspective. The way they are filmed, portrayed, dressed, and developed as characters are all from the male perspective, and from the male gaze theory. So, in conclusion, just because the roles are switched or the female leads are strong women and well developed doesn't mean they fall into the female gaze. We should analyze them from both perspectives because you might be surprised with what you find.